would you just raise your hand? Okay. Thank you for joining us for tonight's meeting of the DNC Rules and Bylaws Committee. I am Jim Roosevelt from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and along with Mignon Moore from the District of Columbia, we serve as co-chairs of the DNC Rules and Bylaws Committee. As we begin, please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will now ask our parliamentarian, Helen McFadden, to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Applebaum? I see him. Ms. Blanco? I saw her earlier. She's okay. Ms. Brazil has given her proxy to Ms. Daughtry. Mr. Brennan? I am not seeing him. Mr. Burgos? Not seeing him. Ms. Cardona? I saw her earlier. Mr. Curry? I saw him earlier. Ms. Daughtry? I see you. Ms. Desai Martin? I have seen. Hi there. Ms. Dowdell? Thank you. Mr. Alete? I haven't seen him.
He is there.
Okay. Ms. Fowler, I have seen. There we go. Mr. Aridia? Yes, I see him. Mr. Jones? I see Mr. Brennan is here in the chat. Don't see Mr. Jones. Ms. Kmark? I see her. Mr. Leon? Thank you. Ms. Lewis? I've seen her.
Yep, I see her.
Ms. McGarrick? I see her. Mr. Martin? I've not seen him. Ms. Martinez? I've seen her. Mr. McDonald? Thank you. Mr. McClinchy has given his proxy to Ms. McGarrick. Mr. Mitchell?
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Ray? I've seen. There we go. Ms. Ronan? I've seen. There we go. Mr. Saunders? I have seen. Thank you. Mr. Spate? I have seen him. There we go. Ms. Schwecker? Don't see her. Mr. Thompson? I see him. Ms. Weingarten? Don't see her. Ms. Williams? See her. You certainly have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Helen. Appreciate it. Per our charter and bylaws, a quorum is constituted by 40% of our or 14, 40% or 14 of our RBC members present and voting, which we certainly have. I also want to recognize the teams who work behind the scenes to make sure our meeting runs smoothly. In addition to Helen, we want to acknowledge Veronica Martinez and the Party Affairs team, Aaron Buckley, John Mott, and Rick Boylan, who continue to work tirelessly to get our business done. And Mignon, I'm going to turn it back to you at this point. You're muted, Mignon.
Okay, but Can you hear me now?
Yep.
We also want to thank the DNC leadership, Sam Cornell, Mary Beth Cahill, Nick Bowers, the Secretary's office, and our DNC counsel, Andy Levine. Thank you to everyone who contributes to making sure our meetings are running smoothly. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to say Happy Lunar New Year to those who celebrate it, and also for those who celebrate Black History Month. We welcome the month, but we also welcome the year. I'll turn it back over to Jim for meetings protocols.
Thank you, Mignon. Before we move into the business of the meeting, I want to remind you that members will be muted unless they are recognized to speak, at which point they will be unmuted by the staff. If a member would like to be recognized to make a motion, offer comments, or ask a question, please use the raise hand feature, which we tested a few minutes ago, or send a message to Veronica Martinez through the chat function. When you raise your hand or send your message to Veronica, she will create a queue for the co-chairs. When it is your turn to speak, you will be unmuted. We will do our best to call on everyone in the order you seek recognition, but please be patient with us. If you have any questions or comments before we get started, please submit them in the chat to Veronica or raise your hand via Zoom, and staff will help us make sure that you are recognized. I'm going to pause here for a minute to see if we do have anybody. I don't see any hands raised for questions or comments. So we will move on to new business. Mignon?
So we do have a bit of business to cover this evening, but today we hopefully will be able to celebrate after this meeting. We have reviewed delegate selection plans for all 57 state parties. You will hear later today that we still have a few plans that are not considered fully compliant, and we'll continue working with these state parties, but tonight we'll orient the committee's work now that the states are implementing their plans. This meeting will help explain the responsibilities of our committee moving forward. While we provide the rules, regulations, and guardrails for developing states' delegate selection processes, it is up to the state parties themselves to craft their plans and put them into practice. The Office of Party Affairs and Delegate Selection continually monitors and supports these efforts. Over the coming months, as a committee, we will navigate challenges related to plans or their implementations, amendments to plans found in full compliance, and possibly other issues. We'll explain next steps related to these processes tonight. I do want to take a moment to thank you all for your consistent commitment to this committee and to the Democratic Party. You have spent countless hours in meetings like this, albeit usually in a windowless conference room, in service of a stronger party. Together, we've developed a landmark application process for our nominating calendar, leading us to a calendar representative of the voices building our party. We made those historic changes while also staying the course with our rules and regulations and continually increasing the strength of our party. I'll turn it back to Jim for the challenges.
Thanks, Mignon, and I share your gratitude to everyone here. As we move through the delegate selection process, our committee can expect to receive challenges to the content or implementation of some states' delegate selection plans. We will address these challenges in accordance with our rules and regulations. Thus far, the committee has received 3 implementation challenges: a challenge from the Dean Phillips campaign and 16 Florida Democrats against the Florida Democratic Party, a challenge from the Dean Phillips campaign and 16 North Carolina Democrats against the North Carolina Democratic Party, and a challenge from Cenk Uygur and his campaign and 15 Florida Democrats against the Florida Democratic Party. All three challenges concern the candidates' access to the state's Democratic presidential primary ballot. Since these are our first challenges in the 2024 cycle, we want to provide this committee and the public with a quick refresher on the challenge process. Under our regulations, properly filed implementation challenges must first be brought to the appropriate state party for a decision within 21 days. The state party may take such action with respect to the challenge as it is authorized to take under state law and state party rules, including taking no action at all. Any party can then file an appeal with this Rules and Bylaws Committee within 10 days of receiving notice of the state party's decision, or after passage of the 21st day from the challenge's filing, whichever comes first. If the state party has rendered a decision, the decision of the state party shall be given such weight as this RBC finds warranted in the circumstances. Upon receipt of an appeal, the co-chairs forward the findings to the DNC staff for review. Forward the filings to the DNC staff for review. Staff will provide the co-chairs with a summary of the challenge and any recommendations for actions by the RBC, including alternatives for amicable resolution of the challenge or the need for additional investigation or inquiry. Upon receipt of the staff summary and review of the pleadings, the co-chairs shall dismiss any challenge or part of a challenge in the event that, number one, it does not fall within the jurisdiction of the Rules and Bylaws Committee, or number two, it is brought by persons lacking standing under our regulations, or number three, it fails to state a valid challenge under the requirements provided within the 2024 regulations, or number four, the same challenge has been previously resolved, or number five, there is no evidence in support of the challenge, or number six, there is adequate remedy pursuant to state law or state party available to the challengers which has not been exhausted, or number seven, the challenge is frivolous. Additionally, the co-chairs are authorized to rule on the pleadings when it is plain from the filings that there is no genuine issue of material fact between the parties. Any dismissal or decision on the pleadings must be accompanied by a written opinion by the co-chairs. In the event of a dismissal or decision on the pleadings, within 5 days, an aggrieved party may file a petition for review with the Rules and Bylaws Committee, stating the objections to the co-chair's decision, and may file a brief. Any other party may then file a response brief within 5 days. The RBC may then consider the challenge based on the pleadings, or if further factual development is necessary after a hearing conducted by a neutral hearing officer. In the event of a hearing, the co-chairs and the committee will proceed in accordance with sections J through P of Rules and Bylaws Committee Regulation 3, which are available in your meeting materials and online on the DNC's public website, democrats.org. And now an update on the statuses of the pending challenges. The Florida challenges were submitted to the Florida Democratic Party in mid-December, and the challengers and the co-chairs received correspondence from the state party that disputed the allegations in the challenges on January 5. The challengers subsequently appealed to the RBC, so in accordance with the process set forth in our regulations, DNC staff is preparing summaries of the challenges for our review. In December, the Dean Phillips campaign submitted the North Carolina challenge, and we received correspondence on January 24 that the North Carolina Democratic Party disputes the challenge. This evening, the Phillips campaign filed an appeal, which will be referred to staff for evaluation. Once we have our staff evaluation in hand, we will have a better sense of the timeline needed to consider these challenges. The challenges, the state party decisions, and the challengers' appeals to date for all three challenges are available to you in the Dropbox you received by email. Mignon?
Thank you, Jim. Members, we will now move to the consideration of delegate selection plans. This committee has reviewed 55 state plans, and as we mentioned earlier, after tonight, we'll have considered all the delegate selection plans. The vast majority of the plans we have reviewed were found in conditional compliance. As you know, once the committee finds a plan in conditional compliance, the party affairs team works closely with the state parties to make these adjustments necessary to move their plans into full compliance. Once a state party has taken appropriate corrective action in response to each of the items listed in the staff evaluations the committee has approved, the state's plan is then automatically found in compliance. We're proud to share with you that 47 plans have been found in compliance, which is 8 additional plans since our December meeting. Erin, can you please share the list of the fully compliant states on the screen with us? One note on the list of fully compliant states. In December, the committee considered New York's Rule 15A waiver request and instructed the state party to provide a clear demonstration of the provable positive steps taken to bring the state law into compliance with Rule 15A. Since the committee's meeting, staff has had the opportunity to fully evaluate and review the updated plan along with the letter, which was provided for you in today's meeting materials and is included in the meeting Dropbox submitted by the state party on December 6, outlining the party's commitment to achieving the legislative changes required to bring state law into compliance with Rule 15A. New York has corrected all the deficiencies with the plan, and as a result, the New York plan has been found in full compliance. We're looking forward to seeing the provable positive steps the New York party takes to ensure state law complies with our rules for the 2028 cycle and beyond. Jim, I'll turn it back to you for conditional compliance.
So in addition to the 47 plans in compliance, there are still 7 plans in conditional compliance and 1 plan in non-compliance. New Hampshire, of course, is the non-compliant plan, as we have not received a compliant plan to date, but have requested one. Erin will now share the list of conditionally compliant states on the screen, and I'll provide a short summary of the outstanding issues for each state. The District of Columbia is correcting the date for selecting its delegation chair. The Iowa Democratic Party is working collaboratively with party affairs to address the remaining questions we have for their plan and has been able to focus on these in earnest this month. While there remains a way to go, the staff are confident they will be able to return a fully compliant plan to us in the near future. Louisiana is allocating its district level delegates to reflect turnout in last year's gubernatorial election and making edits responsive to the staff evaluation. Minnesota remains in conditional compliance due to its process for selecting the delegation chair, as we have discussed and voted upon in 2 meetings. North Dakota is making corrections that are responsive to the staff evaluation. Oklahoma is making corrections responsive to the staff evaluation and submitting some missing attachments. West Virginia is clarifying how delegates will be selected by those who sign statements of support for the same presidential candidate. Mignon, back to you. You are muted, Mignon.
We'll now move on to considering two waiver requests for Pennsylvania and Louisiana. We'll begin with Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has submitted a request for a waiver to Rules 15D and 15E. Pennsylvania participates in a statewide presidential preference primary. Pennsylvania's deadline to file a declaration of candidacy was January 8th, 106 days prior to the election date, which is 16 days longer than the 90 days allowed for by Rule 15D. Additionally, Pennsylvania's filing deadline for candidates for delegates whose name appears on the primary ballot was January 13th, 101 days before the April 23rd primary, which is 11 days greater than 90 days allowed for by Rule 15E. In Pennsylvania, the petition process for all offices begins 13 weeks prior to Election Day. The timeline indicated in the waiver request allows presidential campaigns to review and approve delegates prior to the signature collection. Should we approve these waivers, Pennsylvania's plan will be considered fully compliant. I'll now ask for a motion to approve Pennsylvania's Rule 15D and 15E waiver requests so we can begin our discussion. Do we have a motion and a second? We have a motion and a second. The floor is open for discussion by our members. Do we have any discussion? If I'm clear, seeing no further discussion, I will ask for a vote on the motion to approve Pennsylvania's Rule 15D and 15E waiver requests. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. I'll move on to Louisiana. Louisiana has also submitted a request for waivers to Rule 15D and 15E. Louisiana participates in a state-run presidential preference primary on Super Tuesday. The December 15th statutory filing deadline, 99 days prior to the election, exceeds Rule 15D's prescribed window by 9 days. Regarding Louisiana's 15E waiver request, Louisiana selects its district-level delegates through a party-run vote-by-mail process with a filing deadline of March 25th, 38 days before selection. In processes that do not elect delegates on the primary ballot, Rule 15E requires the filing deadline for candidates for delegate to fall no more than 30 days before the delegates are selected. Louisiana requires the extended deadline based on the program they developed for their mail process. It provides additional time to allow presidential campaigns to exercise their right of approval, then print and mail the ballots, giving Louisiana voters the requisite time to receive and return their mail ballots. I'll now ask for a motion to approve Rule 15D and 15E waiver requests so we can begin our discussion. Is there a motion? Is there a second? There is a motion and second, and the floor is open for discussion for the members. I am not seeing any discussion, questions. Seeing no further discussion, I will ask for a vote on the motion to approve Louisiana's Rule 15D and 15E waiver requests. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Those opposed say nay. It looks like the ayes have it, and I will now move back to Jim for technical amendments.
Under Regulation 2.9 of the Regulations of the Rules and Bylaws Committee for the 2024 Democratic National Convention, the co-chairs of the RBC are empowered to approve technical amendments and then advise the committee of the amendments so you may consider them. Technical amendments are those changes that do not substantively change the delegate selection process and do not impede participation in the process. Earlier this week, we provided you with a memo outlining the technical amendments approved by the co-chairs for plans previously found in compliance. A copy of the memo is in your meeting materials. We approved the technical amendments for the states listed on the screen. Do any members have any questions or wish to have the full committee consider any of the technical amendments? I am not hearing any members who wish to have these technical amendments considered. No motion is necessary, and we will move on. If a member wants to reconsider an amendment, there is a procedure, but I don't hear any motion, any desire for a reconsideration. So I will toss it back to you, Mignon, for discussion of substantive amendments.
Thank you, Jim. Now that we've covered technical amendments, we'll turn our attention to substantive amendments. Substantive amendments are defined by Regulation 2.9 as well. And as the name suggests, they refer to amendments that substantively alter a state's process after the state has been found in full compliance. The regulation also specifically mentions amendments affecting timing of the first step, which is the case we have found before us today. Under Regulation 2.9, the co-chairs refer substantive amendments to the full RBC for consideration. Before us today, we have substantive amendments from Hawaii, which is summarized in a memo in your meeting materials. The State Central Committee of the Democratic Party of Hawaii adopted an amend delegate selection plan on January 13, 2024, which moves the state's process from a party-run male primary on August 6, 2024, to a caucus process on March 6, 2024, to be held in conjunction with the state party's biennial election meeting. The state party determined this change was necessary due to the budget concerns which they have previously forecast for us. A full summary of the amended plan is included in your materials, but for the purposes of discussion, I'll highlight the following. Voting will be conducted in person, utilizing paper ballots at caucus sites in the 51 state House districts. Voters must enroll with the party by March 6 to participate. Military and overseas voters may email the state party, which will make reasonable accommodations for their participation. The amended plan removes the allocation of bonus delegates. The state party's budget for the caucuses has been revised from $255,000 to a total cost of $8,791. The state party will continue to pursue legislative changes for the state to conduct a state-run presidential primary election in the future. Before we begin this discussion, I will note that Regulation 2.9B requires amendments to be approved by the state party and the RBC at least 35 days prior to the time the amendment would be implemented. And we are currently, and unfortunately, 34 days from March 6th. While we recognize we are just shy of the 35 days due to the date of this meeting, we also are cognizant of the facts that the Democratic Party of Ohio voted to approve these changes on January 13th, and the changes do not affect ballot access or filing deadlines. To begin our discussion, I'll ask for a motion to approve Hawaii's substantive amendments and for a waiver for Regulation 2.9B, allowing the amendments to be approved 34 rather than 35 days before the implementation. So I'll ask.
May I just ask that we can correct the record? I believe you said Ohio when you meant Hawaii.
Yes, I'm so sorry. If I did say Ohio, absolutely.
Okay.
I'll ask for a motion to approve Hawaii's substantive amendments and for a waiver for Regulation 2.9B, allowing for the amendments to be approved 34 rather than 35 days before the implementation. Is there a motion?
Chair, I see Dennis and Lee motioning and seconding.
Okay. We have a motion and second. The floor is open for discussion by members.
Chair, I see.
Yes, I see Frank's hand. Yeah. Veronica, do we see? I think we see Frank's hand. Yeah.
Yes, and Frank is muted.
Okay, thank you. I'm unmuted. Frank Leone from District of Columbia. I just wanted to mention that because we had extensive discussion about this, Hawaii was one of the states that was going to use ranked choice voting. And my understanding is in this new plan, they are not going to use ranked choice voting, although there's a reference in the summary to ranked choice voting. So just wanted to clarify that they are not going to use ranked choice voting now as part of their delegate selection plan.
That is my understanding, but Frank, I'll let Veronica or one of the staff members step in here.
Yes, Chair, that's correct. They will not be using ranked choice voting for their caucuses.
Is there any further discussion? Veronica, do you see any other hands?
No, Chair, I see no other hands.
Seeing no further discussion, I will ask for a vote on the motion to approve Hawaii's substantive amendment and a waiver for Regulation 2.9B. All those in favor of the motion and waiver, say aye. Those opposed, say nay. If I can see correctly, it looks like the ayes have it. Jim, back to you. Overview of new plans.
Okay, that brings us to the consideration of new delegate selection plans. As we said earlier, The committee has taken initial action on 55 state plans. We have 2 remaining plans to consider, one from Alabama and one from Guam. As you will remember from our previous meetings, your meeting materials contain a summary of findings, a 4-page synopsis, and a staff evaluation for each state. Each plan presented today has been reviewed by the Party Affairs team. Staff may reference responses from the states in their presentations, but the PAD's office has not processed new submissions in their entirety yet. For each state, we'll ask a PAD's team member to present their findings and recommendations. Following the presentations, we will call for a motion regarding the plan's compliance and any waiver requests. This will allow for discussion to begin. Once discussion is complete, we will vote on the plan's compliance along with any waiver requests before proceeding to the next state. Mignon, would you like to bring up Alabama?
Yes, I think I would like to bring up Alabama because we're in a much better place with Alabama due to the hard work. Give me 1 second here, Jim. So before diving into Alabama's delegate selection plan, we wanted to provide you with a brief update on the status of the Alabama bylaws challenges filed with the RBC last year. As you will recall, during our October meeting, we considered these challenges and ordered a new vote on the state party's bylaws, at which all duly elected members of the state party's executive committee, called the SDEC, be permitted to vote. Our order further specified that the challenging parties be given an opportunity to review the bylaws to be proposed by the state party's leadership and provide feedback. That all members of the SDEC, including at-large members of the SDEC's diversity caucuses, be given 10 days prior written notice of the meeting at which the vote would be held and permitted to participate and vote at the meeting. That Chair Kelly would submit an update to SDC membership lists to the co-chairs and the challengers prior to noticing the meeting, and that no membership fee would be imposed in order to vote at the meeting. We ordered that vote to be held by February 1st, 2024. We are pleased to report that the state party is working to resolve the issues presented to us in October, albeit a few days late. Chair Kelly submitted a proposed set of bylaws for challenger review in late November and has worked with the challengers to incorporate some of the feedback he received from them. He also submitted an up-to-date list of SDEC members to the challengers and the co-chairs and addressed the challengers' notes regarding a few missing members and out-of-date contact information. Last Wednesday, Chair Kelly sent a notice of the meeting to all duly elected members of the SDEC, including at-large members from its diversity caucuses, notifying them on Saturday, February 3rd, an SDEC meeting would be held and votes to amend the bylaws would be taken. 2 sets of bylaws were submitted for the vote that Chair Kelly proposed and that was reviewed by the challengers, and a set proposed by one of the challengers, which mirrors the bylaws passed by the state party in October 2019. It is our understanding that Chair Kelly intends to present both sets of bylaws for full committee vote. This has been a long road, and the state party's work here is not quite done, but we do want to commend the state party leadership, the challengers, and the members of the committee for the time and attention dedicated to these issues. We wish the state party well at its meeting this weekend. With that update on where we are with Alabama, we'll move forward with consideration of Alabama's delegation selection plan. I'll recognize Veronica to give us an overview.
Thank you so much, Chair. As Mignon mentioned, we received a delegate selection plan from Alabama. We've had a chance to review it on the staff level. You have the staff evaluation and the summary of findings in your meeting materials, but in summary, the delegate selection plan provides for delegates and alternates to be allocated proportionally based on the presidential primary on March 5th, Super Tuesday. District level delegates in Alabama will be elected on the same ballot as the presidential candidates during that primary on March 5th. We did, as we shared with you previously, allow Alabama, while the plan was still in review, to allow for filing for these positions and presidential candidates to proceed before the plan was made conditionally compliant. As this is a state-run process, we wanted to be mindful of ballot printing timelines while the plan was reviewed. I will flag that the plan states that the Alabama SDEC will select the PLEO and at-large delegates on June 8th. As you know, under our rules, when a state party committee is the entity selecting PLEO and at-large delegates, members of the state party committee must have been elected through open processes in conformity with the basic procedural guarantees utilized for delegate selection. In light of the 2023 challenges and the RBC's findings in October, we expect to have a better sense of the SDEC's eligibility for this option after its meeting this Saturday. So we'll come back to you with that as well. And we have also asked the SDEC to provide an explanation as to why Hispanics, AAPI, and youth goals are lower than those provided by the DNC tech team. We'll certainly circle back with those as well. So we have those 2 points. We also have some points in the staff evaluation for them to review, but we're looking forward to working with them on this plan. And we do recommend that it be found in conditional compliance tonight. But happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Veronica. I'll now ask for a motion to find the plan in conditional compliance so we can begin our discussion. See a motion? Do I see a second? See a motion and second. We have a motion and second. The floor is open for discussion by members, and if you have any additional questions for Veronica. Seeing no further discussion, I will ask for a vote on the motion to find the plan in conditional compliance. All those in favor of a motion say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Is that I believe that the motion of yes, I believe that we have enough votes. We had yes. So those, I'll announce the vote as yay. Thank you. Jim, Guam.
So the final plan for us to take up for initial consideration in this cycle is from Guam. I'm going to recognize Aaron to give us an overview.
Thank you, Chair. Guam determines presidential preference through a territorial caucus on June 8th. They're a little different, so no delegates are elected at the district or PLEO level, but 6 at-large delegates and 2 alternates will be elected at the territorial caucus also on June 8th. Guam is eligible for a 20% pledged delegate bonus for holding its contest in June, which will result in 1 additional at-large delegate. And the National Convention delegates will select the standing committee members and the delegation chair on June 20th. The plan does comply with the spirit and generally the substance of the rules, the call, and the regulations. Staff recommends the plan be found in full compliance.
Thank you very much, Aaron. Now I'd like a motion to find the plan in conditional compliance so we can begin our discussion. Thank you, Carol. And is there a second?
Here you have seconds from Joanne Dowdell, Frank Leone, and Randy Weingarten.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
Chair, you have a question from Dennis Spate from Texas.
Dennis, go ahead.
Just real quick, the staff recommendation said conditional compliance, and you stated it that way, but Aaron said full compliance. So I just want to make sure we're doing conditional compliance.
I'm going to confirm with Aaron that she meant conditional.
Definitely meant conditional compliance. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of this motion to find Guam in conditional compliance, please say aye. Opposed, say nay. And the ayes have it. Mignon, back to you.
Sure. So before we wrap up, I need to go back to two of our plans. I think the audio cut out when Jim was reading them. I want to just reemphasize Minnesota remains in conditional compliance due to its process for selecting the delegation chair, as we have discussed and voted upon in 2 meetings. And North Dakota is making corrections responsive to the staff evaluation. And before I close, I also want to say to you that our chair, my co-chair, is in the hospital. He is doing well, so I don't want people to panic, although I did. I'll let Jim speak for himself, but I just want to let you know that this man has dedication beyond belief, and we just love him so. So Jim, I'll turn the floor over to you before I close out.
Well, I do believe I'm going to live. I took a little fall on the ice and bruised a muscle, didn't break anything. But they're dealing with a little bit of bleeding in my upper thigh muscle. But other than that, I'm, as you can see, I'm still in action, and thank you for all your good wishes in the chat right now. I didn't want to burden you with me in a hospital, Johnny, for the whole meeting, but there I am. Okay.
We love you, Jim, and thank you so much for even deciding to do this call tonight. Well, members, this brings us to the end of our agenda. Once again, we thank you for all of your dedication and participating. We've covered a lot of ground, but as you heard tonight, we still have some work to do. We've asked you to hold the evening of March 14th for another virtual meeting. We'll send out more information as we get closer. But before we go, are there any questions from any of the members? Seeing no hands, no further questions. Thank you again. And a big thank you to our court reporter and the team from Weymouth Watson for facilitating this virtual meeting. Without objection, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you again.